Hello, I'm Raven.
And I'm Taylor.
This is the Laundry Room Podcast.
We're back.
We are back for episode number 5.
5?
Yes, we are moving along with these. We are actually cranking these out. Yes. We have been able to stay at a pretty consistent pace. I'm proud of us.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for tuning in today. I have a pretty interesting topic I want to cover. It's not near and dear to my heart because we'll get into that. But it affects something that is near and dear to my heart, so we'll get into that as it goes. But this is going to be more of a scripted episode for me, so I will be looking at my tablet more. I hope that doesn't bother anybody. I hope everybody's just listening.
It's better than the notebooks, okay?
It's so much better than the notebooks. But alrighty, you ready for this?
Hold on.
All hail the topo.
All hail the topo. Okay,
we're gonna have to get a fucking sponsor from them eventually.
Please?
That would be dope.
I love you.
Okay. Alrighty. So, today I will be covering the Panic of Satan. Dungeons & Dragons has been growing in popularity more and more since it was created all the way back in 1974. While obviously not quite the cultural phenomenon it would become today, it still quickly started to spread as a popular tabletop role-playing game, and by the early 2000s it was considered to be one of the most known and best-selling TTRPG. So it might be a little surprising to hear that D&D also has its history of controversy. Starting roughly 5 years after its creation, multiple ridiculous allegations started to surface, leading to years of negative press and backlash from a very small but loud group of conservative mothers. It all started in 1979. Okay, actually, before I get deeper into this, I want to make some pretty obvious trigger warnings. There is a lot of suicide, a lot of self-harm, murder,
religion,
mentions of ritualistic sacrifice and mutilation, and
this is going to be a rough ride.
It's rough, but just know that all of those allegations were false. Those were all rumors and speculation that got blown way out of proportion by a few suicides and a couple murders that were just twisted by the media.
Actually unrelated.
Yes, but yes.
Fully.
And we will get into that in a little bit. So, as I was saying, it all started in 1979 when a young man named James Dallas Egbert III mysteriously disappeared from the Michigan State University. His parents would go on to hire a private investigator named William Deere to investigate their son's death. Deere would be successful in locating James's body in a steam tunnel system underneath the university.
That's so fucking sad.
With his limited understanding of D&D, or that the tunnels were a very popular LARPing ground, which stands for live action RPG.
Role models?
Yes. Lightning bolt. Sleep, you're asleep.
I love that movie.
Was a popular LARPing ground for the students. Deere was convinced that the game itself had made James lose himself and, quote, go out of his mind. The truth of James's death was, of course, far darker than him. Don't fucking make fun of me, bitch.
I love that.
God, where was I? The truth of James's death was, of course, far darker than him getting lost in a tabletop game. Having been only 16 at the time of his death, he was already under immense amounts of stress from his parents, as well as suffering from depression. Because he's already
in college.
Yeah, at 16, which is fucking crazy.
Incredible.
Which is fucking crazy.
That's what makes this one hurt even more,
Yeah. He already had a history of substance abuse and self-harm. And after a note was found with clear instructions of what to do with his body, it became pretty clear that he had committed suicide in the tunnels.
That's so fucking sad.
Yeah.
16.
And of course, his mother started to twist it to where it was the game, of course, that affected him. It had nothing to do with his very obvious mental health
Exactly.
issues.
It's called depression.
and parents that just ignore the obvious. A year later, in 1980, an incredibly inflammatory memoir called Michelle Remembers was released. Created with the help of her psychiatrist Lawrence Pasder, Michelle Smith would go on to recount numerous tales of childhood abuse at the hands of a mysterious satanic cult. Her claims would later be debunked, but of course that didn't stop concerned parents from becoming hypervigilant over an issue that didn't even exist. The following wave of panic and hysteria would lead to parents and law enforcement coercing false allegations of satanic abuse from children and falsely imprisoning innocent daycare and school officials.
It's insane.
2 years later, in 1982, Irving Lee Pullings would commit suicide hours after playing a session of D&D. Irving, also known as Bink, was already...
I love that!
Yeah, no, it really made me sad reading this part. Was already known to have his fair share of mental struggles. According to multiple claims from his friends and classmates, he had a hard time fitting in, and many could tell that he had a number of problems. Of course, his mother, Patricia Pullings, would go on to ignore the actual cause of her son's death.
Fuck you,
instead,
Patricia.
Absolutely. Instead insisting that D&D had placed a curse on him that forced him to take his own life. She would go on to create the group Bothered About Dungeons and Dragons, or BAD for short. Super fucking creative, Patricia.
Doing the most, Patricia.
Considering the awareness around mental health in the 80s and the negative stigmas associated with it, many concerned parents would go on to ignore a lot of the real issues going on with mental health.
That's so fucking sad.
Now, with D&D being firmly in the crosshairs of an established group, the panic began spreading like wildfire, catching many innocents in the collateral damage. One preschool became the central location of a modern-day witch hunt. Starting with allegations against a single teacher of McMartin Preschool, Ray Bucky was accused of inappropriately touching the child of Judy Johnson. This initial charge was dismissed, but Johnson would return again with far worse allegations of satanic abuse and rituals within the school.
What the fuck?
Yeah, right? Way to step it up a notch.
Hey, little
Jesus.
Jimmy, you're what, like 5? Let's go.
Oh, and just wait.
Sacrifice you to the
Just
devil.
wait. It gets ridiculous. This goes to show how the Salem witch trials happen. Like, it's super easy when children are coerced.
Mob mentality.
Yeah, and mob mentality, for sure. This prompted those accusations from Johnson would prompt the police to send a letter to over 200 parents, which would later account in over 360 out of the 400 student base coming forward with stories of ritualistic abuse, which literally ranged anywhere from playing like naked celebrity, which I don't even know what the fuck that means, to being taken to tunnels under the school that were later found to never have existed and forced into satanic cult rituals. Yeah.
No.
Whatever.
Is that rational? No.
It's really easy when you take a 5-year-old and you sit him down at the table and you say, "Did your teacher take you into tunnels under the school and make you do rituals?" Sure.
Right. Are you asking leading fucking questions?
Yeah. Fucking.
1. Number 2, they're 5.
Yeah. They're in preschool. Leave them the fuck alone.
Whatever's going through their head, it's not going to rationally translate. I mean, I have 2 kids, obviously. I've had one that's done that, one that'll do that eventually. I would never, depending, obviously, like, you gotta be really careful. I would never fully depend on just the word of a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
I would obviously
look into it.
I'm looking into it, yeah.
Pay
I will
attention.
go full FBI on this shit, like, but I'm not gonna take that and just fucking run with it.
And especially this was back in
You gotta do your due
82.
diligence.
Yeah, so this was back in
Go fuck
like,
yourself.
yeah.
Come on.
Where was I? Sorry. These allegations would go on to spread to other schools across the country, leading to over 200 false arrests. After a trial that lasted over 30 months, that actually started to involve his mother too. Allegations started to somehow branch onto her.
For what?
Being a part of this fucking satanic cult, I guess.
What the fuck?
Yeah. He was
Or
accused of being a part of the satanic cult. After a trial that lasted over 30 months, Ray Buckey was found innocent of all charges.
Hell yeah,
But that
he
didn't
was.
stop many others from still spending time in prison, which I couldn't even imagine being falsely imprisoned under the accusations of satanic child abuse. You probably got a
Yeah.
lot of innocent people fucking hurt or killed in prison. Like, that
Yeah.
is so stupid.
Especially because all the cases are circumstantial and it's all hearsay.
Yeah, it's all hearsay. And most of it was debunked because there was no tunnels under the school.
That just
And you
tells
can't tell me that they went and fucking filled them in later, because, yeah,
the
fucking
domino
right, dude.
effect of fear-mongering.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, that mob mentality of just
Yeah.
one accusation spreading.
They just take an idea and they fucking run
And it
with
just
it.
runs with it.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I continuously use
Psychotic.
the metaphor of, like, wildfire when I speak about
Yeah.
this, because it genuinely did for, like, a 20-year
Swept
period.
the fucking nation for a long time.
In 1984, Mary C.
That's okay.
In 1984, Mary C. Towie would be strangled to death by Darren Lee Molitor and Ronald G. Adcox. They had often played D&D together, and Molitor would later argue to use the game itself in his defense. They didn't let him because they knew it
I
was,
was
a
like,
bullshit.
shut
They
the
knew it was
fuck
a
up.
bullshit defense even then. But even like the damage he did by using that was enough on its own. But he would state that he did
The
not
fucking
intend to
gumption
kill
of
her,
this guy.
but instead was trying to, quote, play with her mind, which he insisted was an aspect of the game. And as a DM for D&D myself, I can firmly say I have never, ever, ever had to lay my hands on any of my players to convey an aspect of the game.
No, at all.
Like, it's fucking imaginary.
Yes.
Sorry if I just peaked my mic. That just pisses me off. Like, that
Yeah.
is so stupid.
That's oh
But you know,
aggravating.
Yeah.
That you even had the balls to say, yeah, no.
instead of taking accountability
I
for
play
your own
this
fucking
game.
action.
That's literally just using my imagination and creativity, and that made me kill her.
But nope,
Sorry.
no accountability. His confession and inclusion of D&D would go on to fuel the fires of panic already surrounding the game. Only a year later, in 1985, 2020 would release a series of segments titled The Devil Worshippers. The series began with a very clear disclaimer that the police and even the reporters were skeptical of many of the allegations they were about to present. However, with that disclaimer quickly forgotten, each segment was intentionally portrayed as fact, going on to mention such terrors as teens being dragged away alive to be sacrificed in the woods, brutal animal mutilations, and satanic graffiti on the walls of schools. Even though all of these stories were nothing more than hearsay and rumors, it still had an impact on already growing fears of, quote, Satan being alive and thriving. Which is just like,
I have no fucking
it was all just for fucking views. Same shit that happens again later on. It's all just for views. It's stupid. Later that same year, Procter & Gamble became the target of its own backlash, being accused of promoting devil worshipping, even going as far as saying their logo depicted Lucifer, which we're going to put pictures of the logos up. It's the original logo consisted of the 13 stars, which like was reference to the 13 colonies, and it had like an old man and a moon or something, but somehow that's fucking satanic, so they had to change that. Even after changing their logo, they would go on to be the target of lawsuits for almost 2 decades, with their final lawsuit being settled in 2007.
Oh my.
Struggle busting right here.
Stop doing that shit. Go touch some fucking grass.
For real. For real. Like, you're
Please?
gonna attack an innocent... They don't even... Procter & Gamble, I don't even think they had anything
It's
to
just
do with
fucking
Dungeons and
unhinged.
Dragons at the time.
You're
'cause
waking up and choosing violence every fucking day, actively.
It's just...
For what?
They were just bored. They were just bored. Wanting money. In 1988, Geraldo Rivera would release a 2-hour expose on devil worshipping to an audience of over 20 million viewers. A series of biased and manipulative clips, including exorcisms, teens admitting to drinking blood, and murderers who acted in the name of Satan. These clips were woven in between vague connections of an infatuation with the occult, metal music, and, quote, New slang. Oh, God.
That shit's not bussin'.
You Satan worshiper!
Oh, no. Burn me at the stake.
Instead of trying to rationally deconstruct the rumors or have a constructive discussion with his guests, Rivera would rather interview a confused Ozzy Osbourne or a demented Richard Ramirez and continue to spread the fear of Satanism even further. Of Satanism. Almost 5 years would pass before anything regarding D&D or Satanism would really surface. Again, however, the next event would be one of the most prolific cases of murder that would add a gas canister to an already blazing inferno of paranoia.
Ooh, that was a good sentence.
Thank you.
I loved that.
The West Memphis 3 is one of the most well-known murder cases attributed with the Satanic Panic. The inclusion of their interest in metal music, Stephen King, and of course, D&D would be used as major factors in their motivations for the murders. Murders they didn't commit. However, I'm trying to leave this section a little vague because my dear co-host Taylor is going to do a pretty in-depth episode about them pretty soon. So
that one might be multiple
I'm gonna leave
parts.
that one on
It's
her.
gonna take me a while because I want to do like a full timeline.
It's dark.
It's very sad.
It's
a
dark.
very, very sad case.
That one is
and
rough.
I want to do my due diligence with
thoroughly
it.
happy that I didn't have to do more research than I did about that because the part I read already made me want to cry.
Yeah.
But
That
anyways,
one's rough.
although some of the panic would subside in the mid to late 90s, the paranoia of Satan controlling our youth would continue all the way to the cusp of the new millennia with the release of the first Harry Potter book. What is now known...
Witchcraft! Can't do that!
Oh, yes!
Satan.
No. Something that's existed for way longer. What is now known as a worldwide phenomenon was once viewed as the heralding of the end times for some, quote, concerned parents. Many religious communities accuse the books of promoting witchcraft, dark magic, and anti-family messaging, which how the fuck? Because they killed his parents?
He creates his own family.
Yeah, so he has to that's a
The
fucking...
fuck?
Did you stretch before you made that reach?
Right, for real. What the fuck? Oh my god.
The most vocal amongst these communities would go on to advocate for the book to be banned from libraries and schools, as well as cries for the book to be burned by some.
Grow up.
Right?
Again,
And while
go touch some grass.
I may have my own opinions about the author, which we will not touch in this video.
Yes.
I have always been a fan of Harry Potter, and I genuinely cannot imagine a world without the influence it had. I also think you are a fucking coward if you ever call for a book to be banned or burned. Like,
seriously.
Like she said, grow the fuck up. If you're afraid of knowledge, then there's something wrong with you.
That sounds like a personal problem.
Thankfully, or maybe not so thankfully, the world didn't end in the year 2000, and our society would go on to almost forget the panic associated with Satanism. With the occurrence of 9/11, much of the world would focus their attention on the new perceived threat of another terrorist attack. The paranoia of Satan would shift to the xenophobic fears of other cultures. This would continue on through to the modern day with horribly racist conspiracy theories around COVID-19 still running rampant. Of course, it wouldn't be the America we know and love if we didn't also have a group of people still insisting that satanic cults control the country. I will not give any credit at all to the QAnon theory. I simply mention it to show that this ridiculous fear of an invisible threat still goes strong today.
We've learned nothing.
We've literally learned nothing. So the next time you watch an episode of Stranger Things and you see those lovable nerds playing a game together,
I love him so much.
think about
Please
how...
bring Eddie back.
Oh, please! Eddie was the best fucking dude. They nailed the, like,
Girl,
DM
when every
perfectly.
single time I watch the scene where he plays Master of Puppets and
chills.
the Upside Down,
Chills.
full body chills. That shit.
We're gonna have to
makes
watch
me
that
feel
now.
alive.
We gotta
I
fucking
know,
watch
I
that
love
now.
That. We'll just pull up the clip on YouTube before
Yes.
we get done with this.
And every time you see those lovable nerds playing a game together, think about how different that show would be if D&D had been driven from existence by a small but vocal group of confused,
It would not exist.
uneducated, concerned parents.
Ignorant.
Thank you for listening.
And apathetic.
I hope you liked what you heard. please give us a like, subscribe, share us with your friends and family, and tune in every Wednesday for a new episode.
You did so good. I loved that.
I tried. I
tried
fucking
real hard.
put my effort into this one.
I'm proud of you. That was
Not to say that I haven't put my effort into other episodes,
No.
but I actually
I feel like this
I finally
one
had the fucking
really-
resources to do it right.
You dove deep. I like it.
Of course, shout out Chase. I love you. Thank you so much for the laptop. You just
Our
literally
producer
saved.
and tech guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's literally been helping us
We
get
love
this
you.
up and going, and he's continuing to help us every day. So thank you
Quality's
so
getting
much.
better and better, so he's doing that for you.
We are
Okay?
trying.
All
But
right, well,
yes, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for
I loved that.
being here. I
That
hope
was-
it was a good episode.
It was sad.
It was sad.
And
It's just, but I
think
like,
you did
I
it
like to
justice.
think that, like, to see that it had D&D has had such a tumultuous past, and was almost like driven to the brink of extinction multiple
do
times.
like an in-depth episode about like when D&D started, how it started, and like,
Oh,
all
I
the
would love to.
controversy
Like, I did a
around
little
it.
bit of research of that because, like, Gary Gygax and
Just get lost in the sauce there for a little
Right?
bit. Yeah,
'Cause, like,
every
they-
time.
it would
you
be
go down
so
the fucking rabbit
crazy.
hole, you never know what you're gonna find down there.
absolutely, absolutely. But I hope you guys enjoyed what you hear, and we will see you in the next episode.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.